The Hornets signed another player. We finally handed out that last two-way contract. Who is it? We'll discuss that today. Plus, playing a little Newlywed Game. I appeared on the Josh Lloyd Locked On Fantasy Basketball pod, had to answer some questions. Doug tries to match my answers. All of that today on Locked On Hornets.
Charles Lee, take notes. Don't do what this guy's doing.
Okay, we have the good one.
You are Locked On Hornets, your daily Charlotte Hornets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free. We're available anywhere you get your pods, and that includes YouTube. I want to tell you that this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Pretty tantalizing, gotta say. NFL Sunday Ticket.
Pretty good.
It's the best is what it is. NFL Sunday Ticket, Red Zone, all the extra National Football League stuff. It's the best. There's Doug Branson. You can find him on the Substack, everyhornetsboxscore.com. You can follow him on Twitter at Doug Branson LOH as well. He has something to say already. What do you got to say, Doug?
I didn't clear this with you pre-show. We made this whole show, and I didn't clear this with you. But my curiosity is getting the best of me because I've been meaning to ask you this all week. Okay, because you are the Panthers expert. You're the radio star in Charlotte. You got your finger on the pulse of all Charlotte sports. And the Panthers are not starting their starters in preseason. Do I have that correct?
You are correct, yeah.
So you've got a new coach there in Dave Canales. And I know this isn't Locked On Panthers. You can tune into that with Julian Council. So I'm going to turn this around into a Hornets topic because this is what I've been curious about. What if Charles Lee pulled some stunt like that? Would we be, because I don't know what the reaction, I honestly haven't been paying attention to the reaction. I know my reaction, just not being a huge Panthers fan, I'm still like, WTF, how are you not playing the starters in preseason? What are you doing? It feels like Dave Canales is being too cute by half as a new coach. And I hope that our new coach and the Hornets' new coach is not going to be too cute by half. Championship pedigree, he's going to know, hey, there's a right way to do things in the preseason. Everything matters. You got to get ready.
I think this is a pretty hard parallel to make across sports.
I'm going to try my best.
Pretty specific football to football of not playing in the preseason so you can last to the regular season. All these games are at a premium, only 17 games. You have much more injuries in football because it's a collision, violent sport. But I say all of that, yet we go back to the preseason of 2022, Doug Branson, and that's exactly when LaMelo Ball started this string of ankle injuries. So perhaps it would be wise of Charles Lee to adopt this Dave Canales strategy, hold LaMelo Ball out of the preseason because we just want him to be ready for week one and avoid all risk at him injuring his ankle again before we get to game one.
No, you're right. Hold him out of preseason. You know what? Go ahead and give him the first couple of weeks off. You know what? I don't want him to get injured in the first couple of weeks. Those weeks don't really matter. How about we give him the first couple of months off? I mean, this is ridiculous. It's ridiculous that Dave Canales thinks that this is particularly for you've got a young quarterback that needs a lot of experience. The Hornets have a lot of young players that need experience. I would be outraged if he pulled something like that. And I don't think Charles Lee will because I think he's smarter than that. I think Charles Lee is smarter than Dave Canales. Roll that on the WFNZ text line. See what they think about that.
Yes, send all of your angry texts to the FanDuel text line, 704-570-9610. Oh, wait, I'm doing the wrong show. That's Wes and Walker. Walker Mail, one half of that. That's me, 12 to 3 every weekday on Sports Radio 92.7 WFNZ. You want to talk about, after all, we got the macro, we got the hot takes out there. Now let's transition to a big-time G League star signing in Keonte Johnson, the Kansas State great. Doug, you've done a scouting report on Keonte Johnson, the newest addition of the Charlotte Hornets. What do you have for the people?
Yeah, if it'll pull up on my rundown. Here we go. So I spent 2 years at Florida before transferring over to K-State. He collapsed in a game in 2020. Do you remember this story when he collapsed mid-game due to a medical emergency that led him to be in a medically induced coma for 3 days?
I do not. No, that's scary.
That's pretty crazy. But he would overcome that. He would go on to play for K-State, be a key role player in their Elite Eight run. Obviously, the medical concerns, hurt him when it came draft time, and also just the reduced production when he went to K-State, because it looked like he was sort of on a star turn there in Florida before all that happened. But he was drafted by OKC 50th overall in 2023, given a two-way. He's 23 years old. He's 6 foot tall, 5 inches, 239, 7-foot wingspan. Shot over 40% from three in his final college season, 39% from three last season on 4 attempts per game in 25 G League games, and was the key player for that Oklahoma City G League team that, if I have my research correct here, won a G League championship. So I think what they've got here, Walker, is a player that a little bit older, the ceiling is closing in, but profiles as a 3-and-D player that is scratching, clawing, wants to be a part of the NBA. And that's the kind of player, it's not a surprise, the kind of player that Jeff Peterson has been bringing into this organization since he got here.
Same for Gabe Plotkin and Rick Schnall. They continue to copy the homework of one Sam Presti and the Oklahoma City Thunder. Let's just take all of their leftovers. You don't want them? We'll try them out for a little bit. Micic, Man, Poku. Poku doesn't survive like the other two, but now we have room for Keonte Johnson. Mo Gee? Nah, that's our own creative work. Let's copy. Let's go after Keonte Johnson and bring him into the system. It continuously reminds me of Toy Story 3, where Andy is handing off all of his toys, Woody, Buzz Lightyear, piggy bank, all that stuff, to the young child that will continue to play with those toys because Andy is too old. Sam Presti has moved on. He's moved on to better things. We are the young child Bonnie in Toy Story 3 saying, please and thank you, we will take your leftover toys.
And look, I mean, I love a leftover toy that can shoot close to 40% from three. I mean,
my favorite kind of toy.
When you compare that to what they just waived in Leaky Black, who was incredibly inconsistent from three, particularly in this past Summer League campaign where he shot nearly under 20%. I mean, I think he just got above 20% from three. And so, yeah, I mean, I like this upgrade. I don't, project Keonte Johnson to be a threat to make this rotation because, look, they're deep. If he were power forward, I'd say, okay, maybe he's got a shot at competing here if he were a little bit older. But, I think at this position, he's going to be somebody that helps them practice well, that helps the G League squad, the Swarm, helps them play well. But look, when you're a Charlotte Hornet, it doesn't matter if you're at the bottom of the two-way stack. You're just a couple of injuries away from actually getting some playing time, and that hasn't been too rare these days.
Do I know Toy Story 3 too well if I know the name of the little girl that received Andy's toys? If I don't have any kids, too?
Well, you're younger than me, so that might have been your Toy Story. Like, my Toy Story was Toy Story 1.
No, that's mine, too. Toy Story 1, Toy Story 2. I can't.
Then, yeah, so you had I gave you a window there. I gave you a door to open to reduce the creepiness factor, and instead you slammed it in my face and said I'm a creep.
No, I pretty much refuse to grab that life raft, huh? I refuse to get on it. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast. Toy Story 4 breakdown. Was it too sad? Find out next. No, we'll play the Newlywed Game. That's still to come here. Second segment, LOH. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. We always appreciate FanDuel for helping us out. You've heard us talk about FanDuel for a while. It's America's #1 sportsbook after all. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. That was pretty good. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. So it's not just the Panthers. For all you NFL fans that don't cheer for the local team, we got you covered. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon, FanDuel.com/lockedon to download America's #1 sportsbook. That offer has me pretty excited. A couple more segments to go. Locked On Hornets. I got to say, before we started recording again, Doug continued to hit me with Dave Canales takes. And basically, Dave Canales is pressing the triangle simulate button through the preseason, and Doug doesn't want him to press the triangle button. So at least you have the better head coach, right? If it's up to you, you have the better one here with the Hornets with Charles Lee, who would never sit his starters in the preseason. He's not going to do that.
No, he said everything matters, and you're exactly right. He's not just simulating the preseason if he's playing Madden. He's one of these folks that goes through the franchise mode and doesn't play any of the games. I mean, that's what I'm saying. He's being too cute by half. He's nerding out. He's thinking he's zagging when actually he's zigging, and he's zigging his way into some, first and second game defeats. And what's everyone going to say? Well, you weren't prepared. Big surprise. You didn't play your players in the preseason. Charles Lee, take notes. Don't do what this guy's doing.
Okay, we have the good one with the Hornets organization. There's lots of new with the Hornets. Let's talk about some of the fun topics that I discussed with Josh Lloyd of Locked On Fantasy Basketball. He does it every year. He does a preview, an hour-long, 45-minute-long podcast. Every team he previews before we get to the start of the regular season. I was on with him yesterday, and we're stealing some content. We were playing the Newlywed Game with this as well. So here's how it's going to work.
Can I pause you for just a second?
Mm-hmm.
There was somebody that commented on our last show that these games are getting ridiculous. And so our response to that is
more games.
Newlywed Game, another game.
Yeah.
Can't stop, won't stop.
No, these are more games for your face, baby. Newlywed Game. So yeah, this is how it's going to work. I'm going to ask the question that was asked to me by Josh Lloyd. And Doug is going to try to guess the answer that I gave to Josh. And Doug wins a cookie. If he gets the answer right, I'll send it to him in the mail. It might take a little while, but I'm sure it will still be good. He'll eat it, and it'll be a nice, delicious cookie for his win in the Newlywed Game. Are you ready to play, Doug?
Yeah, I wish I had a giant, in the Newlywed Game, they have like a giant board. I don't. I do have my famous Post-it notes here, so I can get them as close to the camera as possible when I write down my answer.
This game is not ridiculous whatsoever. The first game that we have, the first question in the game that we have is, which player joining the team is the most important? We'll count it for 2023. It won't be long term, but we'll count it for 2023 or 2024. Excuse me. I'm living in the past. We'll count it for just the 2024 season. What new player, what new addition to the squad will be the most important addition for this upcoming season?
Okay, so we're not counting any of the trade deadline folks. So Micic, we throw those out.
Nope.
So okay, so we're talking Josh Green, we're talking Tijan Salan. I mean, there's some Musa Diabate, there's some fringe guys. I think we could throw those guys away.
We started off pretty easy because it's basically at most a 33% chance of you getting this right, but pretty much a 50-50 chance.
Now, are we counting Seth Curry? Because he was released.
Yes, sure. You can count Seth Curry.
All right, but judging by your tone there, I'm going to say you did not say Seth Curry.
No, Seth Curry is the biggest addition. He was good last year. We like Seth Curry.
I'm writing down my answer, and I'm going to reveal it now. And for the visual audience, it says Josh Green is my answer. Was that your answer?
Yes, that's correct. I did have Josh Green. You know me well. Josh Green is the answer for me. I thought this was easy enough for 2023.
2024.
God almighty, why do I keep doing that?
It's a fine.
Why am I living in the past? Why is that happening?
$1.
2024, 2025, that basketball season, the one that hasn't happened yet. Yeah, I think Josh just doing a lot of the little stuff that doesn't exist on this roster in one package, right? Corner threes, I think he's going to help there. A guy that gets to the rim a decent amount, finishes, nice cutter, can hit spot-up threes, plays, point-of-attack defense. I think all that stuff wrapped into one isn't found in another body on this roster. And so because of that, not going to be high usage, going to be like the fourth or fifth option offensively for this squad, very much like the role that he had with Dallas, where you had high usage guys such as Luka and Kyrie. I think that's going to be really helpful. It's why the owners, Schlotkin, they wanted him at the deadline. Jeff Peterson comes by, and he still wants him and makes that move with the help, I'm sure, of Schlotkin. That's why I think Josh Green is the biggest addition they made. This year, how much is Tijan Salan in the equation for this answer there, Doug?
So I think you're right, but just for the sake of this game, let me tell you why you're wrong. Okay. You're right. Josh Green was not a huge impact player for Dallas. Now, you would find Dallas folks that, analyze the team closely say, well, if you look deep, he was doing this and that. But generally, I mean, that team was about their star players. And there are certainly holes in Josh Green's game. He's got to adjust. He didn't score much at all, right, for his team in overseas in the Olympics. So, there's some question marks there. Where you have Tijon Salon, yes, he didn't look exactly game ready in Summer League, but he's had some time. Maybe he's looked at some film, going to make some adjustments. He was a top pick. So, at some point in the season, I think they have to give him time. And if he goes down to the G League and just soaks up, learns a lot, maybe he's a fast learner, he comes in midway through the season when the Hornets are humming and just is the accelerant, is the X factor, is the thing that sends them into the stratosphere midway through the season. I think Tijon Salon is the one that has the potential for the most impact.
See, just like Newlyweds or Oldyweds, even though you think I'm right, you just want to argue with me. So Oldyweds is what this game should be called. That sounds a little more ridiculous. I'll ask you one more before we move on.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you the toughest one for me to answer, at least.
Okay.
What 4 to 5 players make up the rest of the regular rotation? Now, You and I agree with
it's
the
a lot
starters.
of writing.
I know it is. You and I agree with the starters. I think we've talked about this before, so I'll just go ahead and lay that out there. It'll be LaMelo and Brandon, Josh Green, Miles Bridges, Mark Williams. We've talked about that. We think that's going to be the starting 5, so not a whole lot of mystery there. I do think that it's really hard to figure out who the 4 to 5 players would be a part of the regular rotation after that. I think there's going to be a lot of experimenting, but there's a lot of options. And it's not like you're going to have a 12-man rotation, right? So I thought this one was difficult, Doug. I don't know if you want to write or if you just want to talk it out. But I did eventually write 4 to 5 answers on the board. Who are they?
So you get 5 players?
Josh said 4 to 5 that make up the rest of the regular rotation.
Okay. Well, so luckily I have a graphic for this. So this is the rotation graphic, which, by the way, you can find on Every Hornets Boxscore.com. I've just created a new Locked On Hornets hub for the fans of this show that are also fans of Every Hornets Boxscore. I've got this. I've got the top 35 nicknames in franchise history, according to Doug Branson. I'm going to update when Walker sends me his final 11. The top 35 players in franchise history, according to Walker Mail. And I've got the Hornets Grid up there. I've got the stat draft up there. So head over to Every Hornets Boxscore and check that out. All right, let's look at the rotation here. So I've got 5 names right here in the reserves, in my reserves category. And I'm looking at the third level that I've created called Uh-Oh. And I'm trying to decide, is there a player that I would jump from Uh-Oh to the reserves category? And I'm not really seeing it. Now, we could take this in 2 directions, which I think you were answering this assuming that Vasiljevic is going to be a part of the organization. If he were,
I did.
Then that reserve list, which is Vasa, Trey Mann, Cody Martin, Grant Williams, Nick Richards, would be the 5 that I would answer, leaving out Seth Curry, Nick Smith Jr., Tijon Salon, and Taj Gibson. And, all the two-way guys, we send them to Greensboro. So that would be my answer. Now, if you take away Vasiljevic and you ask me to put in a 5th player, then I would say Seth Curry I would say Seth Curry early and Nick Smith Jr. late.
You pretty much nailed it, because what I did was I put the 5 guys that you have listed as the reserves, and then I put / at the very end, possibly Seth Curry. That's how I wrote it. So nice job. That you really did. Like, you nailed it more than you even thought. But when I started to think about it more, think about these names. You just, even if it was manufactured, you came up with an argument as to why Josh Green wasn't the biggest addition, and yet we don't even have Salon in the rotation. So Salon is now.
Well, hold on. I said at the jump, I said you're right.
I know.
Here's the thing. I can make an argument. Listen, I can make an argument for anything. That is the beauty of talk. If you haven't figured it out yet, when you watch ESPN or you listen to talk radio, like that's the whole game. You just make an argument for anything. I went 16-0. We were the Miami Dolphins of the UNC debate team. Now, I did lose in the championship game, so I guess that makes me the Tom Brady Patriots.
The 07 Patriots. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes me the 07
You got David
Patriots.
Tyree is what you got.
It's true. Yeah, it was a tough final. Really disappointed, but that's this is my wheelhouse. Making an argument for anything.
It's the beauty and the beast, I would say. This is the part of the problem, right? You drafted somebody 6th overall. We agree Salon is not your typical 6th overall draft pick, but if you look at the recent history, the 6 overall guys, they play, and they play pretty much right away. So now, is he really not a 10th guy on the team? Is Nick Smith Jr., is that somebody that they really care about enough? Because we've heard Charles Lee, we've heard Josh Longstaff talk him up quite a bit over what we saw in Summer League, giving him a lot of responsibility defensively and offensively. Ultimately, you and I agree here. I just thought it might be interesting because Curry would be your 11th man. Nick Smith Jr. might be thrown in there. Salon is a 6th overall pick. And, I mean, you have Gibson, veteran leadership there. But there are 3 guys I think have like somewhat of a shot to be a part of the rotation.
For sure. And I think how this question gets interesting is if you drop it from 5 to 4. Then are you taking away Trey Mann? Are you taking away Cody Martin's minutes? Because I don't think, look, Nick Richards, his spot in the rotation is solid. Grant Williams, not going anywhere. I mean, he's a potential 6th man of this team. Vasa Micic, I think, could also be potential 6th man of this team if his scoring improves. So I think there is going to be a legitimate battle between Trey Mann, Cody Martin, and I would throw Nick Smith Jr. in there as the sort of dark horse to get this new coach's attention and say, hey, I deserve, when you whittle this thing down to 9-man, because look, for the first few months, I think it will be a 10-man rotation. But when you whittle this thing down, if this Hornets team is contending, who is going to be that 9th man? And it's going to be really interesting, particularly with Nick Smith Jr., because he's a guy that you can kind of have on the cheap and be a future part of your organization, whereas Trey Mann, trade chip, Cody Martin on the last year of his deal. So there's potential to invest in the future if Nick Smith Jr. performs well from the jump, from training camp on.
I will say if you were to dwindle this down to 9, I think Cody Martin probably would be the odd man out, right?
I think so too.
Okay. All right, man.
We agree on that. I actually wrote that down, so that's 3 for 3 for me.
Oldie Weds, everybody's new favorite game. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast. We will go to one of our other silly games, the Hornets Grid. It's coming up next. We're trying to figure out some of the best Hornets of all time in a very specific category. We'll play that in the last segment of LOH. First, I want to tell you this episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. It's the formula for winning championships, and it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or you get your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. More Locked On Hornets ahead. I think we might actually finish this one, Doug. We're making some pretty damn good progress. We've got 5 boxes filled out already. I mean, we had a surprise box filled out with David in the last episode. Del Curry, and I think it's appropriate. Del Curry, best role player. Glenn Rice, we gave best shooter. Probably should have given more consideration to Del, but I think Glenn Rice is the right answer. Kemba Walker is in 2 boxes. He's in the best Hornet of all time. He also has the best handles. Rod Morrow of the Black Guy Who Tips podcast, friend of the show, he said he would give the best handles box to Baron Davis. I thought that was somebody we probably should have considered a little bit more. I still go Kemba, but Baron would get jiggy with it, man. He was a lot of fun.
Yeah, great first step, great explosion. I mean, those dunks were self-made a lot of those times, right? I mean, it wasn't a lot of off-ball movement for Baron. He was making it happen for himself. So, yeah, totally. I mean, I would consider him, but I think I saw more I think I saw more exciting ankles taken by both Kemba and Terry Rozier. And look, some folks got into the comments and said, how could you say that LaMelo Ball, wouldn't be over Terry Rozier? And you just got to watch the games. And the number of moves that Terry Rozier put on guys. In fact, they looked, even in the Rozier-LaMelo lineups when they were together, they looked to Rozier to break guys down 1v1. That's not what they were asking LaMelo Ball to do a lot of the times. So.
Yeah, and LaMelo's got good handles too. Like
no doubt.
I'm totally comfortable with him having the basketball, of course. But Terry Rozier, also some good ones. And best passer, by the way, Muggsy. That was the 5th one I did not mention yet. So where do you want to go here, Doug? This is your world.
Well, so, yeah, I think Rod Morrow, I'd like him to cover funniest. I think, him being the comedy writer, I think he would have some good insight on that. We haven't had Nod on the show in a while either. If he's available and not too entrenched in getting ready for college basketball season, I would love to get his opinion maybe on most annoying.
100%. That is immediately what I went to. Nada's opinion on most annoying Hornet ever.
But not because he is annoying, but because he is so easily annoyed.
That's right. That is correct.
He has the annoying radar. The sensitivity is up to 10 on that radar. So I think he could give the most annoying Hornet. Man, we've been talking about best in post. We could just go ahead and make a decision now. I meant to throw in, when we talked about this in the last episode, I meant to throw in Emeka Okafor, who averaged a double-double for the Bobcats. I think you could throw him into the conversation, though. I think, again, Zoe, Big Al, people are going to gravitate towards those more. Are you ready to declare a best in post between Zoe and Big Al?
Yeah, okay, here's my thought on this, because it comes down to 2 players. It comes down to Alonzo Mourning and Al Jefferson for me. Like, you have your probably Emeka Okafor, your Vladdy Daddy. Like, you got some centers that can be in that second tier. I think tier 1 includes Alonzo Mourning and Al Jefferson. One guy has an All-NBA appearance here in Charlotte. The other guy has multiple All-Star appearances, only 3 seasons, though, in Charlotte. Al, he kind of started to fall a little bit as his time went on, where Zoe wasn't even hitting his prime, yet still was already an all-star. Here's where I'm going to go. I'm going to go with Al Jefferson.
Upset.
The reason I go Al Jefferson, he exclusively was doing his work in the post. Mm-hmm. Zoe would pop out, like, I guess every now and then and hit a jumper. We have the Boston shot, which is the most famous of those examples. And we have a best rim defender box. Now, I know it's not, well, okay, we have one that we can give Zoe. Let's just give this award to the other guy. But even still, if you were to say, okay, you need a bucket, but you got to get it in the post, who are you giving a post entry pass to? Is it Alonzo Mourning or is it Al Jefferson? I'm throwing it to Al. I'm seeing him grab the ball with one hand, keeping it away from all the little mouses in the houses, then spinning, making you look like a fool within a phone booth. Give me Al Jefferson. It was tough, but I'm settling on Al as the best in the post.
I'll give you a couple of more pieces of argument to go with this Big Al selection. I think a lot of people would hear this and immediately go, well, it's best in post, not best in post offense, but best in post overall. And so I think you could take into account Zoe's dominance in, on the defensive end of the floor. Could you not? Or were you not thinking that at all?
Well, no, you could. I just, like, how much, basically, then are we copy and pasting best rim defender?
That's true. It's true. It's right above. It's a box right above. So, yeah, that's tough. So if we're taking out, that, then I think you've just got to give it to Big Al Jefferson. Even if we didn't, I think you could make an argument for Big Al, and the argument is this: that he was able to secure an All-NBA selection at the center position. It was a third-team All-NBA. I get it, but I mean those are tough to come by, those All-NBA selections.
And no caveat, you're All-NBA, like that. That's real,
right? And he did that without being an elite defender, and he upped his defensive game for that team. Credit to Steve Clifford, who really raised everybody's defensive floor that season. But that took commitment from Big Al Jefferson, and he sacrificed his body. I mean, he had, a lot of foot injury issues as he aged with the Charlotte Hornets. And then I'm going to give you one more piece, and that's that Zoe dominated in a time when centers could dominate. I mean, he never had to go up against a ton of zone defenses. Like Big Al had to operate within a completely different dynamic that de-emphasized the center position, particularly offensively, and was able to get a third team All-NBA selection at really the death of the center position. And I think he deserves a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, I'm going Al. I'm with you. I think Al Jefferson ends up with best in post and feel like that was a good combo. We haven't had a big disagreement yet. We've had some other, what about this guy? No, okay. We're still very much the Newlyweds. We still very much agree with one another. We're getting each other's answers right. And Al Jefferson, Big Al's paint, baby. He gets to be in the best in post box. So there you go. We'll continue to fill this out. Let us know if you think we're getting these answers right or wrong in the YouTube comment section. I know you will. I know you will criticize. So feel free. This is your time to do
hesitates.
so.
No one hesitates.
No. Feel free, baby. YouTube comment section. It's there. So go ahead and use it. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available anywhere you get your pods. That still includes YouTube, by the way. Are we at 7,000 subscribers yet?
We're so close.
Okay, get there. Help us get there, folks. Subscribe to our YouTube page and also make sure you're making us your first listen. Make your second listen Locked On NBA. Again, anywhere you get your pods. Read Every Hornets Boxscore. That's Doug Branson's Substack. And listen to Wes and Walker on Sports Radio 92.7 WFNZ every weekday from 12 to 3. Have a great rest of your day. We'll be back with you sometime next week.